lifting up Jesus, opening his word from Australia, Denmark, Israel, Japan, New Zealand, Northern Ireland, Republic of Ireland, Singapore, South Africa, United Kingdom, Thailand, the Philippines, United States, and throughout the world. You're watching Moriel TV. Hi, this is Tim from Moriel TV and Moriel Radio, here with James Jacob Prasch-Live in sunny California. Jacob, a new believer, new subscriber to Moriel TV, wanted to pass it along. Thank you, dear brother Jacob, for your teaching. It's a real breath of fresh air on these end times. I've just begun to study end time Bible prophecy and wanted to ask you, what is the meaning of the term, what is realized eschatology, and what is inaugurated eschatology?
Okay, realized eschatology means exactly that it's realized, that what's predicted is happening and is underway. Inaugural eschatology is something that was associated with various figures who are refuted by Arnold Fruchtenbaum in his book Eschatology, most conspicuously George Eldon Ladd. Inaugural eschatology is dangerous because it is a half-truth. It is a half-truth. The kingdom is now but not yet. Jesus said the kingdom is within you. When he arrived the first time as an atonement for sin, as a suffering servant Messiah, he began the process. He inaugurated the process that will climax with his return and the establishment of his messianic kingdom in the millennium and then on into eternity. This is a truth. In this sense, eschatology is inaugural. He inaugurated it, but it is not yet climaxed. It will do so at the parousia in his second coming. That is the true aspect. Unfortunately, the popular aspect is a distorted one. And again, George Eldon Ladd is drawn upon by its proponents. These are people who are caught up in sometimes hyper-Calvinistic Reconstructionism or sometimes hyper-charismatic dominion theology, kingdom now theology, which combines elements of Reconstructionism with charismania. The latter-day reign, the man-child, these kind of aberrational trends in early Pentecostalism that were at one time rejected as false by the mainstream Pentecostal denominations that have now become mainstream. Often there were things associated, of course, with E.W. Kenyon and with William Branham and so forth, but they were rejected by early Pentecostals. Now they've come into dominion theology, the idea we're going to conquer the world for Christ before he comes. A proponent of this kind of thinking would, of course, be Rick Godwin, who's caught up in financial and other scandals in San Antonio, Texas. And people in that school who subscribe to the kingdom now. The Kansas City false prophets had very strong leaning in this direction, supported by Mike Bickle. They had strong leanings in this direction that the church is going to conquer the world before Christ comes and set up his kingdom. Completely false, completely baseless. But they draw on Ladd, George Eldon Ladd, and they draw on Calvinistic Reconstructionists, such as Rousas Rushdoony, the late David Chilton, Gary North, and so forth, to construct this artificial theology of dominionism that says we're going to conquer the world for Christ before he comes and set up his kingdom. Then he's going to come back after the church has taken over the reins of government, economy, culture, etc. These people will often look back to what the Puritans did in England or the Kulturkampf, the cultural conflicts you saw taking place in Geneva with Calvin and things of that nature. They will draw on that. What is really peculiar, however, is what you have with Kingdom Now theology that bases itself largely on inaugural eschatology is a combination of the Reconstructionist ideas, where the book of Deuteronomy becomes a legislation for the church to take over modern society. Those kinds of ideas from a Calvinistic camp that is cessationist, that don't believe in the gifts of the Spirit, with hyper-charismatic extremists who were in the latter-day reign, man-child, manifest sons access of perverting the Scriptures. Put them together, you've got quite a mess. The theological basis of this is either an eschatology borrowed from Reconstructionism, or it is inaugural eschatology associated with George Eldon Ladd, or some combination of the two. Now, this is rather complicated, but the people who are caught up in it are complicated in that they are simple-minded people who are confused, very confused. This is inaugural eschatology. It is a half-truth. Jesus did inaugurate the kingdom in his first coming, in the sense that it will climax with his second coming when it will be established. However, most of the people taking it on board mean something very different. They mean dominion theology, triumphalism, kingdom now theology, what's known as an over-realized eschatology. An over-realized eschatology. Now is the kingdom. Now, the simplest way to understand these people is, if you can believe it, post-millennialism. Post-millennialism. Well, if Satan is bound for 1,000 years, I want to know who keeps letting him go. Nonetheless, this is the absurdity of the way that these people think. They are also invariably caught up in extreme versions of preterism, would say that the book of Revelation has no future meaning, and the Olivet Discourse was completely instead of partially fulfilled in 70 AD. They tend to gravitate in that direction concerning prophetic events. This is the basis of it. I hope it's not too complicated. It's really complicated only because, again, the people who get caught up in it are not very theologically or doctrinally literate, and they're confused. They take a bit of Ladd and a bit of Reconstructionism and a bit of charismania and a bit of the false predictions of the Kansas City prophets, and they artificially construct this crazy theology and this crazy eschatology. I hope you can make sense out of my answer. Your question was straightforward. Unfortunately, what the people who believe in such things hold to is a ball of confusion. Thank you so much for your question. My name is Jacob Prasch. God bless. Blessings, dear friends. Greetings in Jesus. This is your friend Jacob Prasch speaking to you at the moment from the UK. You know, so many of the questions we get in our Roku broadcasts and our Vimeo clips and on YouTube deal with subjects that we deal with much more extensively in our books. We can't, for the sake of brevity, go into the kind of depth in a TV broadcast we can actually go into in a book. But so many of the questions come from material that are expounded in the books on a much more broader scale that it's almost frustrating sometimes that we can't spend hours and hours answering the questions that are given to us. Obviously, practicality dictates that's not a possibility. The books are there. They're available. They're available in print through the Moriel catalog on the Moriel website, moriel.org. But in this day of Kindle and electronic books, they're also available through Amazon, and they're available through Kindle. The three books that would be the most referred to in the questions we receive are the three latest books. The first being The Dilemma of Laodicea, The Dilemma of Laodicea. It's an exposition of the 7 churches in Revelation, culminating with the final 2 churches, Philadelphia and Laodicea particularly, setting the stage for the return of Jesus. The Dilemma of Laodicea would be the first. The second would be Shadows of the Beast. Shadows of the Beast. How the coming Antichrist, how his identity will be revealed to the faithful church. The rapture will not happen. Will not happen, absolutely not happen, until the faithful church knows who the ultimate beast of Revelation is. That is the Antichrist and also the false prophet. How the identity of the coming Antichrist will be revealed to the faithful church. Shadows of the Beast, the second book. And the final and latest one, Harpazo. Harpazo. What the scripture actually teaches about the rapture, the snatching away which takes place between the 6th and 7th seals in the book of Revelation. So these 3 books, The Dilemma of Laodicea, Shadows of the Beast, and Harpazo, all available in the Moriel catalog, all available through Amazon, and all easily available electronically by Kindle. Thank you so much, dear friends. God bless. May Jesus be with you.